guys, welcome back to episode number 3 of the Jake Shields podcast. Chris Mancuso here of tarpsoftsports.com. Jake, what's going on, man? How we doing this week?
Good, man. Just got done training, got a little break between training sessions. So here to do the podcast and talk about all the fights we saw this weekend and what's coming up.
Yeah, man, it was an incredible weekend. We're going to fire right into that now off the hop. Charles Oliveira is the new lightweight champion with an absolute amazing comeback TKO victory over Michael Chandler in the second round. Looked like he was almost going to be stopped in that first round. First off, what happened there from your perspective? You see such a great first round out of Chandler, and to come out and get stung like that. Did he think Oliveira was still hurt from the round before, or is that just the way it goes sometimes and you get cracked?
I think it's just the way it goes. Like you said, he had a great round. Oliveira had some good moments too. Oliveira came in, got the back. It was looking like, oh man, it might be done for Chandler. Chandler exploded right out and it came in swinging, almost had him knocked out, it looked like, and Oliveira recovered. And like you said, he came back and just teed off on him. And Oliveira's, it's been great to watch him because he's a guy who came in over 10 years ago and showed a lot of promise, but never quite looked, like championship level, but like a good prospect. And watch him just improve over the years and kind of, he was always up and down, and then out of nowhere, I believe he was on a 9-fight win streak. He's just completely changed his game and looking better. I'd actually missed several of his fights, went back and watched them, and you watch him just improve every fight now. And he looks like he went from like a guy who wasn't quite title material and who even almost got dropped at one point to a guy who's a dominant champ. And as a fighter and fan, I love seeing that. I think a lot of people do. And it's just, he looked great, but so did Chandler. I think we'll likely see another rematch.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him go. He lost 3 out of his 6 fights. He lost to Holloway, lost to Pettis, lost to Felder, gets tossed a fight against Clay Guida. Now, no disrespect to Clay Guida. He's one of the greatest of all times, but to equate it to like some wrestling shit, he's like a guy that if you get tossed him, if you're Oliveira, if he loses that fight, you're right. He would have been cut if he lost to Clay Guida. No disrespect to Clay Guida. He beats him. And now, like you said, 9-10 fight win streak in a row, beats Tony Ferguson, beats Michael Chandler. Now you got to think the way that Dana White operates here, that probably the winner of McGregor Poirier would get Oliveira. I don't see them giving it to Gaethje, right? He hasn't fought since Khabib crushed him.
Yeah, I mean, whether you think he deserves it or not, the winner of Connor's going to get it. It's just Poirier certainly deserves it. Connor hasn't had a lot of wins, but he draws eyeballs. He's a huge, huge draw. And, if you're the champ, that's who you want to fight just because you're going to get paid a lot more off the pay-per-view percentages. So whether you think he deserves it or not, that's who's going to get it. And I think Poirier definitely deserves it if he wins. So like I said, most likely we'll see the winner of that. The other thing you could see maybe Gaethje versus Darush would be a good number 1 contender fight. Maybe have those two fight just in case something happens with Conor and Poirier for a backup plan.
Yeah, you know what? I love that idea. I love the idea of Dariush fighting one of those guys. And then, if you're Michael Chandler, great win over Hooker, tough loss here, seems to carry himself really well. A fight that I would wonder if you would like to see. What about Islam Makhachev, the way that they both fight? That would be a pretty good matchup for him next, no?
Yep. That's actually, I was thinking the same thing. It's a really tough fight for both of them. It's not an easy fight, but I mean, Islam's talking about if he wants to be number 1 contender, he's got to beat a big contender. And there's Chandler, and it sucks for Chandler coming off a loss to fight Islam, who's supposed to be the next Khabib. But as a fight fan, I want to see it, to see if the hype's real. I keep hearing Islam, the next Khabib. So let's see if he can get through Chandler. If he gets through that sets him up close to title contention as well. 155s is always just stacked. I mean, there's so many guys around that weight. I love 55s and 70s. Those are always the most stacked divisions. And sure enough, there's tons of great fights there.
Hell yeah, there's a ton of great fights to make at 55. You could play matchmaker all day, keeping it in 55. And I know you brought up Dariush as a great option to fight for that number 1 contendership. He took on Tony Ferguson. Listen, Tony Ferguson, big fan favorite. You saw it. I mean, how bad were the fans going against Dariush, who's never been anything but like such a respectful guy. But at the end of the day, UFC fans are very loyal, and they had their loyalty on hard for Tony Ferguson. Now you've seen it. He's lost to Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, and Dariush. Those are 3 great fighters. He beat Donald Cerrone before that. Now, I know a lot of people, and even Dana after was like, I don't know if Tony's going to fight again. The guy's only landed 30 strikes in his last 30 minutes of competition. That's not enough. Does this not make so much sense to let Ferguson and Donald Cerrone get in the middle of the octagon one more time, beat the hell out of each other, go drink a bunch of beers after and enjoy the great careers? Does that not make the most sense to you?
Yeah, no, I think that could be a good fight. And personally, I think Ferguson needs at least one more shot. He is riding a 3-fight losing streak, but again, it's all top guys, and he might be too late to make changes, but I think he can make changes. The problem I'm seeing with him is when he gets taken down, he's not using his wrestling to get back up. He's just sitting on guard and looking for submissions. But when you're against guys like Darush and Oliveira, you need to get to your feet. He needs to go back to his wrestling, try to stand up. The old Ferguson, we would see him standing up, hitting these beautiful Granby rolls and scrambling back to his feet. And he's just he's accepted being on his back now. If he could change that mental state, I think he could make one more run. I mean, that's a big change to make. He's boxing with Freddie Roach, so he's making changes with the striking. Maybe he needs to make some changes with the grappling as well.
Yeah, certainly does. And I mean, you see him take that ankle lock there, the leg lock the other night. I mean, most people would have tapped. You saw him do it against, I think it was it Khabib or Gagey too that had him in a long ass submission? You saw his ankle after the fight. Mm-hmm. It looked horrible. Guy just won't tap. Maybe too tough for his own good, but I agree with you. Too many top level guys for Tony Ferguson there to think about cutting him or whatever. They got to give him another fight. And, the title picture's over for him. Speaking of title pictures, though, Jake, one championship has a new heavyweight champion of the world. Now, I know Brandon Vera, but he ended up losing to Arjan Bhullar, and he is now India's first champion. Well, he's the first champion of Indian descent. He's actually born in British Columbia. Being a Canadian guy, we lose all our fighters to bigger markets and that. So America too. Yeah, it is what it is, right? All of a sudden the guy pops up and he's from India or he's from Singapore. As long as there's like a billion people there, you can be there. But you'll take a look at Brandon Vera, everything he's accomplished, same age as you. Is there even any reason for him anymore to keep doing this for Vera? And the last thing I want to know is for the one championship, the heavyweight title, there's a Ji-Won Kang. He is who Bhullar called out. I mean, any one of these heavyweights can knock each other out. But as far as Vera goes, 43 years old, what do you do if you're him? I mean, he's still a great fighter. Do you try to go back for a rematch here, or do you just kind of go into that next part?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call when you say, we fight. He's fought so many years. It's what he loves. It's hard to walk away. So I think he still looks like he has a skill set. I wouldn't say he looks terrible. I mean, he was winning fights before this. He's still fighting for a title. So I certainly wouldn't say he needs to retire, but I'd also say he has no reason to fight anymor, unless he needs the financial money. The guy's fought for like over 20 years. He's accomplished so much. And it was a good fight. The Brawler did look tough though. He was walking him down, picking his shots. I was impressed with that performance. And like I said, the first fighter of Indian descent to win a title. So that's something I imagine ONE FC is pretty happy about that. That's a huge market, over 1 billion people. So they can maybe, I'm pretty sure they've never had fights in India, but that's, over there in the Asia market. So it makes sense for them to use him to try to push in. And, India's it's a growing market with, as far as, a lot of third world-ish, but there's a lot of money there now as well. So it's, I'm sure ONE FC is looking at this being like, this might be your shot to push him in. And that's probably why they called him Indian instead of Canadian. They're like, oh, we already got GSP. we don't need a Canadian market.
Yeah, no more Canadians. Christian Lee and Bhullar, I guess, weren't born in British Columbia after all. But no, the guy he called out here, the Ji-Won Kang, I didn't know anything about him. I was like, looked him up. He's had 2 fights in one championship, beat Amir Al-Kabari. He's pretty good. He KO'd him in the first round. It was impressive, but he only has 5 career pro fights, but he's won them all by knockout. It'll be interesting. I think that's one division where one championship can certainly take a look at some of the guys who the UFC have cut, and maybe take a look at adding to that division. I think out of all their divisions, the heavyweight one is probably the least, competitive or exciting. They definitely need some work there, but no matter what, when you're fighting at heavyweight, it takes balls, guys. And speaking of balls, I want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the Manscaped and the new Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. This has skin safe, replaceable ceramic blades, adjustable guard sizes. I think there's 4 of them. It's waterproof, wireless charging system. It is the #1 tool for your family jewels. Make sure you use promo code Jake AJJ at manscaped.com to receive 20% off and free shipping. That's Jake AJJ at manscaped.com. It is trusted by over 2 million men, North America wide. It's the 4th generation of their safe trimmers. Nobody wants to nick their sack. So if you do, send it back. It's not happening with the Manscaped 4.0. Now, taking it away from anything to do with balls, we have a huge couple fighting for the fights for the females here coming up at Bellator 259. We have Chris Cyborg taking on someone you're very familiar with in this fight here with Smith. Now, you've spent some time here. This is the second one. How do you kind of see this fight going? And have you talked to Smith at all and got any insight into anything she's changed or anything like that? Or do you still work with her that much? Or
yeah, Smith is was my teammate for a lot of years. I kind of helped coach her a little bit as well. So I'm definitely biased towards her. I think she's extremely talented. That being said, Cyborg's a tough matchup for her. She's the bigger fighter by quite a bit. Smith should be fighting at 35, but Bellator doesn't have that weight, so she's forced up. And Cyborg's the more explosive and powerful. So I haven't talked to Smith. I probably should give her a call and give her my opinions on the fight. And I would recommend that the first round that she tries to. The problem with Smith, she's sometimes too tough for her own good. She likes to go out there and trade shot for shot because she's got the mental toughness and she's got the chin. But Cyborg has crazy power. So I think it would be smart for her to try to first round, try to get in the clinch, push her to the cage, look for a takedown, try to get a little lactic acid build up in Cyborg's arms, get a little ground and pound, or at least if nothing else, do a little cage fighting, pull a little of the power out, and then start using the striking, trading shot for shot. So I know she's tough enough to do it, but Cyborg's just got too much power early on. I think she needs to get a little tired and just stay on her and outwork her and out hustle her, and she can pull out a tough fight.
Yeah, they don't call her the pacemaker for nothing, right? She can bring it to her for sure. But like you said, that first fight went in there, like you said, too tough for your own good. You're not going to trade off the hop. Like you said, first round, exactly. Tire her out. Even you could see it. I think that could have been what happened to Chandler in the Oliveira thing when he had his back and spending some time on the ground. It seems like maybe that like you said, the lactic acid buildup when you're getting into those heavy grappling situations and then you have to stand up. Is it a big difference in what you're like after doing 3 or 4 minutes of grappling? I've only ever done striking, right?
Especially these really explosive guys, the first 3 or 4 minutes, they just have so much power, and they can that's when you see so many of these one-punch knockouts. If you can get a little tension, you're going to see less one-punch knockouts. Sometimes you'll see it though, the second round comes in, they rebuild and they get super explosive again. So you just got to pull a little bit out. And you do see one-punch knockouts later in the rounds, but you definitely see them a lot less because it's not quite that same explosion. Sometimes only like 2 or 3 minutes could be enough to pull out like 30% of her power, which can be the difference between hurting and knocking you out.
Yeah, man, that makes complete sense, right? Yeah, it is the difference between putting that power to turn your lights out and not having it. Maybe someone able to step through it and get a takedown. That's going to be unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, we have a really good fight actually coming up this weekend at UFC Vegas 27. We got Boston's Rob Font taking on Cody Garbrandt. Font's looking to get his first title shot. He thinks that he should be in there. We're trying to get, if you're Garbrandt, he's looking to pick up his second straight win. He had lost 2 in a row. How do you kind of see Font versus Garbrandt panning out?
Honestly, haven't watched a lot of Font, so I don't know. I can't give the best insight. I've watched Cody fight a bunch. I know he's a great striker. He gets a little reckless sometimes, gets a little too excited, which that pays off sometimes when it's a knockout. Other times, he'll get clipped. But I would like to see him bring it back a little bit and still keep his hunger and his aggression, but maybe just pull it back 10-20%, and it should be a good fight. And since I know Cody, I'm definitely rooting for him. I would like to see him get out there and get another title shot.
Yeah, definitely. And me working in the hockey market, I did a lot of work in Boston. And so I know a bit about Rob Font Guys love him. He's 33 years old. He's 18-4. He's 44% knockout rate. He's kind of lost some of that power. Those happened early on in his career.
Yeah.
He's a decision fighter. He all right. No, I guess he did beat Marlon Morales by TKO, but before that he beat Sergio Pettis and Ricky Simon via decision. So those, Sergio Pettis, obviously great fighter.
That's a huge win with Pettis coming out with that dominant performance in Bellator. That shows just, I think Pettis is much improved, but still that's a big win regardless.
Yeah, that's a big win on Rob Font's resume. And if he gets through a guy like Cody Garbrandt, who is a great fighter, like you said, maybe sometimes gets a little excited, great for the knockout, sometimes can get him caught. If he gets a win over him, he will jump into that title position. Speaking of title positions, though, the biggest question mark in the UFC right now, even though the heavyweight champion was crowned, it's Francis Ngannou. Jon Jones moves up and he's ready to fight the winner after the Stipe and Ngannou fight, comes to Dana White, asks for a shit ton of money. Obviously more than you're ever going to get. Some people said 30 million. I have a hard time believing that 30 million is the true number. I mean, even when they were talking 10, 12, 15, I don't think Jones was ever going to get paid that money anyway. I don't think it was 30, but certainly came in there asking for a lot of money. So now Dana White says, we're going to do Derek Lewis versus Ngannou. That's going down and Jones can fight Stipe. He doesn't want to fight Stipe now. What do you do? With the landscape of the heavyweight division? I mean, if you're Dana White, do you just move on without Jon Jones and just let Ngannou do his thing and fight? I mean, Derek Lewis, he just stopped someone tried to steal his car. He knocked the guy out and he got arrested. Derek Lewis loves a good fight. He's entertaining as shit. I got to say, Derek Lewis might be one of my favorite, maybe not fighters, but more like characters within the UFC.
His personality, yeah, man, he's great. Like I said, I just saw that car thing right before. He stopped a guy and beat him up. He's just he's a great citizen, stopping car burglaries. I remember, I think there was floods down there. He was out there rescuing people, and like he just seems like a great, genuine guy. Always out to help, not bitter. He's funny, so he's a hard guy not to love. As a fan, though, I wanted to see the Jon Jones Ngannou, but I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I get it. It's Jones asked for a lot of money. I think he deserves a lot of money. Maybe he's asking a little too much. I think he has done so much for the sport. I think it is a true super fight, him and Ngannou. But I think the problem is he's asking a little too much on the guaranteed end versus the pay-per-view end. Maybe he should push a little more towards the pay-per-view end. That way, if the fight sells, then Dana can rationalize that, well, you sold the hell out of this fight. You made, how many millions buys. But I think he's wanting a lot of guaranteed money is where the problem's lying. So, I hope the fight comes together, but I see both perspectives. So, but at this point, like I said, Derek Lewis is a nice guy. I train the same gym with Francis. I see him quite a bit. So I'll obviously be rooting for Francis, even though I like Derek, but it's not the fight I wanted, but I mean, that's one I'll take.
Yeah. And then you got Stipe sitting on the sidelines now as the number one contender. Dana White saying, whatever, then Stipe will get the winner of Ngannou and Lewis. If you're Jon Jones, and you can't get this fight to happen, you've gone up to heavyweight. You've already destroyed the light heavyweight division. You see what Bellator pays. Are you not trying to maybe push for a release here? Like him and Dana seem to have some some damage there that maybe can't be repaired.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for Jon Jones to not fight for a title. I get it. I mean, I like Stipe, but he just lost. And Jon Jones is going off really, Jon Jones had never lost. He has one of the best win streaks in combat sports history. So to say he doesn't deserve a title shot is ridiculous. So I would wait if I was him as well. And as far as him and Dana, it seems like they might not be able to resolve things, but I don't really see Dana releasing him. He's too big of a star still to want him to go to Bellator. So I don't see that being very likely.
No, me either, man. I think that eventually they get something done. Jones just needs to come down. Dana needs to come up. They gotta, like you said, they got to do the Francis versus Jones fight. Like you said, it's a super fight. It's an absolute super fight. The whole landscape of the heavyweight division, has kind of changed with Jones coming up. There would certainly be not exciting if he went back down to the light heavyweight. I was looking forward to seeing him fight at heavyweight, and I think most of the fans were. So hopefully they get that done. Now we're going to go to something.
Yeah, we need to mediate and get that done. But that being said, though, there are some exciting fights for him at light heavyweight now. There wasn't, and now the weight's built out between the current champ and that other guy that came out with the funny hair, looking vicious. So we have some contenders now. So it does make it where it would be interesting to see him drop back down.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, you got Jan down there, the Polish power. He can absolutely turn your lights out. You saw him beat Israel Adesanya, which was really impressive after the run that he was on at middleweight. But I want to talk to you about something more up your alley. We have Gordon Ryan, like you said, one of the best grapplers of all time, taking on the beast of the East, Shinya Aoki. He's from One Championship. He is, like the Gordon Ryan of the East. What do you make of this? I mean, you being a huge grappling guy, you must love when two super grapplers come head to head. Like, this is a super event in the grappling world, surely.
Yeah, this is great. Like, Aoki's a guy that I've been watching for years. He's a phenomenal grappler. But let me give a quick rundown of Gordon Ryan real quick. For some people watching this might not really follow jiu-jitsu. The kid's, I think I've met him when he's like 17, 18. He's 25 now. He's already considered the greatest of all time, or one of the greatest of all time. But lots of people are saying the greatest of all time. He's running a 45 fight win streak. I think out of those 45 or jiu-jitsu grappling matches, but against top guys, I think out of those 45, I think like 42, I don't know the exact number, but 40 something of them are by submission. So not only is he winning, he's just destroying everyone. He's he wins his weight division. Jiu-jitsu matches, they have a weight division. They have an open weight where you could go in. They call it absolutes. Every tournament he goes to, he wins his weight and the absolute. So he's a guy, they're having a hard time even finding him matches right now. He's just running through everyone, and he walks around 215 pounds. So even though I love Aoki, I just don't see him standing much of a chance with the skill difference and the weight difference. Mm-hmm. But it's still an interesting match. It introduces Gordon to the fight fans, and Gordon's a guy who everyone's turning down matches with him. You think everyone would want to go against the greatest of all time, but a lot of these other top jiu-jitsu guys, like the top heavyweight guys, they're saying no when they get offered the match. So he's not an easy guy to match up for. He's that good. I think it's going to be good for jiu-jitsu. It'll build the sport. Gordon's a guy who loves to talk crap. He's got a little I want to say Conor McGregor, it's his own style, but he loves to talk crap, make it interesting. And he's even called the submission he's going to tap the guy with his last two fights. So he's going out there and just dominating. And I expect him to, even though Aoki's great, I expect Gordon Ryan to go out there and dominate, and make quite a show. And hopefully the fans will love it and start making grapplers get paid more money.
Absolutely, man. It's good. Yeah. And this is an open weight match as well, right? Like you said. So we'll see. I think Aoki definitely is gonna have a hard time there. I like Shinya Aoki a lot. I think he's one of the best, especially on the out east. Like, I mean, he's incredible. I think he's good. He's great at MMA. His grappling is amazing. He had a tough loss against young Christian Lee too, which was almost like a changing of the guard kind of thing over there. Will be interesting. But Gordon Ryan, like you said, this guy is the Terminator out there. Yeah. Like you said, already considered one of the best of all time. Good on One Championship though. Hopefully, like you said, pumps these grapplers up and get people paid more money in the world of grappling. Now, Jake, a lot of times lately we've seen the boxing and MMA world overlap. We saw it again this week, but in a cool way, finally, not some dickhead like the Pauls or YouTubers running around. We saw your boy Nick Diaz training with my favorite fighter of all time, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. That was awesome seeing them in the boxing ring working together. I saw Tyson Fury tell Dana White, book this man a fight. We talked about it last week. Come on. There's no way. I mean, you've had to have heard something by now. There's no way Nick is not determined to come back looking like that, training with Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can see from Nick last year on his Instagram, out partying Nick this year, out training all the time. He's definitely taking his comeback serious. And as far as the Tyson thing, I only saw those quick videos, but it was great to see MMA legend and top boxer out there having fun. They weren't big pricks towards each other. It looked like they were playing around. Nick was having fun, grappling. So it's great to see them in a friendly manner versus always being enemies and talking crap. They respected each other and had a good time. And I loved watching that. And, Tyson Fury, I doubt he'd fight MMA, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, you never know with Tyson Fury because he says he wants to fight Francis Ngannou. You're going to have to ask Francis about that. Have you talked to him about that at all at the gym? Does he find that strange?
Francis hasn't been around. I think he's actually over in, I believe he's in Africa right now.
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah, celebrating.
He's been out of the country for a few weeks. But I think Francis could become a heavyweight boxer and do very well. He's not a normal type of athlete. People don't realize he's a freak athlete. People like him are rare. It's a heavyweight. He moves like a lightweight, and that power, I think he could, I'm not going to say he's going to beat Tyson Fury, especially not right away. But I think he could go out there in heavyweight boxing and start knocking people out. Kind of, when the Kimbo slice came and transfer over. He's Francis is a much better athlete than Kimbo, so I think give him a couple of years, he could be knocking out heavyweight boxers too.
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever get to meet Kimbo in those days?
Yep, I met him. Extremely nice guy. I met him quite a bit because I was fighting for Elite XC, and they were the ones that were really pushing Kimbo. So he was always super nice, friendly. Had a big entourage with him. I wouldn't say I know him well, but always had good interactions when I ran into him.
Yeah, it's too bad he's gone now. He was a beauty, man. One of the first guys I remember, like from the internet. I remember watching those backyard fights back in the day, and then boom, he was like shot into the mainstream, and then it was all over, man. Crazy how life works like that. Speaking of life being crazy, now we're going to talk about a brawl that you were in, but Mayhem Miller sentenced to a year in jail, 2 years probation. You see, the guy's been in and out of trouble all the time. We'll get into your thing, but now he gets a year in jail, 2 years probation. You think this is one of those situations where maybe this is exactly what this guy needs to clean his shit up?
Yeah, the whole Mayhem situation is just sad. Even though we were not friends and have quite a bit of history, not good history, like I still feel bad for the guy. It's just, he's been just in so much trouble, just arrested time after time, just stupid stuff like stands off with the police, like semi-domestic violence with girls, like stalking them, like being weird, vandalism of like churches. They found him naked. I think he had to stand off with the police. It's just pure idiocracy, the stuff he does. It's just like, oh man, you just want to like smack him and be like, get your shit together. But it's just, even though I don't like the guy, I just feel bad and hope he turns his life around and gets it together. So I think, a year in jail is a long time for, he's a case where it's probably the right thing. He's been in so many legal problems. Hopefully he can go in jail, get his head straight and realize it's not the life he wants to live and change his life around before it's too late.
Yeah, certainly. You'd like to, no matter what personal thing you have, you don't want to see somebody like have their life just fall as far as it has for him. Hopefully he can get out of it. But let's go back because we just had, I think it was like the 11th anniversary back midway through April when we had decided that we were going to try this podcast and do this. Now, the brawl happens. I believe it took place it was in Nashville, right? Was that after the Dan Henderson fight?
It was right after the Henderson fight. Yeah.
Right after Henderson.
I beat Mayhem the fight before and he was mad. I beat him and also, talking crap on Twitter and he was mad about a few other things as well. He's kind of a crazy guy. So he was all worked up and came in and hopped in. So like I said, not a big fan of the guy, but it's still sad seeing his spiral downwards.
Yeah, it sucks to see him spiral downwards, but he comes into the octagon that night. Let's go back through this. It might be a little tough, maybe not. He jumps into the octagon. What are you even thinking when that happened? Like, what is he doing here? And then what's the thing that sparks the whole, I guess, mayhem, for lack of a better word?
Well, my adrenaline was already up from the fight, and I look and see Mayhem coming at me. And I didn't really think. I just kind of swung on him because we'd been beefing through other things, through Twitter, through text message. He was mad that I kind of hooked up with some ex of his. He was being all weird about that. And I see him coming at me, so I just went and swung on him, and then there it just broke out. Yeah,
man, that was insane. So, okay, you had the Twitter beef, but you just said you were dating maybe some chick that he was an ex of him, or we're seeing some chick. Is that what it was really about? Is that why you
I think that was part of it? Like, honestly, I've never had this happen before, but when I was fighting him, I had two separate girls write me and be like, oh, I hate Mayhem. Beat him up. So they were both, the guy did get a lot of attractive girls. They're both hot. So I go, all right, I'll beat him, but you're going to owe me a date. I mean, I didn't tell them about each other, but I'm like, you're going to owe me a date when I beat him. So they're like, okay. And then end up hanging out with those girls. I wouldn't have said anything to Mayhem, but then he's sitting there talking crap on Twitter to me. So I have one of these girls. So I'm like, oh, put her in a Jake Shields t-shirt. And then I text him the picture and he was all like, he was butthurt about that. But even these girls,
you sent him a picture of you sent him a picture of her in your t-shirt after you.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it, but he was like talking crap on Twitter, so I put her in a Jake Shields t-shirt and like snapped a picture, and I'm just like, oh hey. So he was not too happy about that, I don't think.
Yeah, your girl says hi. Yeah, I guess well that adds a lot of context to half of the reason probably why he came in, and then so
that's part of the reason why he hate me. I don't know how much of that was why he hopped out or not, but definitely a good chance that was part of it. So I seen him, I'm like, oh, this guy's trying to get me. Plus the girls that hung out with him, they said he was like completely crazy, like stalked them. Like, I don't like, not maybe severe abuse, not like, what was the guy that, the porn star girl?
War Machine.
Kind of abuse, but like weird, like following them around and like outside their houses, kind of scaring them and stuff. So he's just, he was always a strange guy with girls.
Yeah, that is very strange. And like, yeah, like War Machine, those kind of guys, right? They have
Yeah,
like a
I don't think
tick or
he. I
something
don't think he
like that.
pulled the war. I don't think he beat the girls up like War Machine. He didn't like actually try to like beat them up, but like weird, like following them, like taking their phones and going through it, like weird, scary stuff that had him like kind of freaked out.
Yeah, man, that's that like mental bullshit, which like you can see he has a clear problem with if he ends up in jail as much as he does and in shit. But you said there was two girls. So you had two girls message you like ex-girlfriends of his, and you said that you were with the one. Now, did you get a date with both of them? Did you go out with the both? Or was it just the one?
What? I went mad at both of them, but only hooked up with the one.
Okay, so you hung out with two.
It's funny. I've never had that happen before. And then two separate ones with one guy. Like, man, they really don't like this guy.
And now, is that something that happens in fighting? Like, when if you have an opponent, maybe the guy's ex-girlfriend or something will come in and be like, "Beat my man's ass," or was that the first time that happened?
That was the first time. I mean, you definitely see girls that aren't necessarily dating guys hop fighter to fighter, but it's generally not. Generally, girls aren't hitting you up being like, "Oh, beat my ex's ass."
That's funny. That's funny, man, because you see that in hockey too. I guess in hockey we call them puck bunnies, right? When they hop from hockey player to hockey player. What do you call that? What do you call that in what do you call that in fighting? Is there a name for those girls? Like, is there a name for it?
I need to get a name for it. I don't know. So
cage bunnies. I guess. Hey, we'll bring that hockey shit over. We're going to call them cage bunnies.
Perfect.
Shout out to the cage bunnies. Now, I do want to say the last things here before we let you go, Jake. I know you got some more training to do the rest of the day. Stanford wrestling won't be cut. That is a huge thing. You know, a lot of the strong wrestlers in mixed martial arts have come from the Stanford wrestling program. It's one of the best. Now, I guess it was up to be actually axed from the athletic department at Stanford. People threw a fit. It's not going now. That's got to be great news for kids coming forward, right? Because as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who's going into coaching, and you see the success of Khabib and shit, are you not looking for wrestlers right now and guys that can kind of do both? Like, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's good news for someone like you.
One thing about a wrestler is the mental toughness. Wrestling is all about breaking guys down and making them tough. So I think part of the reason why you see some wrestlers so successful is obviously wrestling helps, but it's also they know how to train harder. Wrestlers will outwork anyone. So if you can find a good wrestler and they know how to listen to coaches, they're very coachable. Not always. Sometimes they're stubborn, but some of these young wrestlers, if you get them young before they've been fighting too long, they're used to the coaches yelling at them, telling them what to do. So if you can find a young wrestler before he's been before he's coached himself too long, these are the best guys. You can get them and just mold them how you want. So it's great in wrestling. Wrestling programs stick around. There's been a lot of wrestling programs cut in colleges after Title IX, which is they have to give even money for football and for women's sports and men's sports. And a lot of these colleges, they're making money off the football programs. So they're gonna be like, oh, what do we got to cut for the men? They're gonna look at the wrestling and start slashing wrestling programs.
Yeah, man, that's garbage. You absolutely hate seeing that. Speaking of garbage, I gotta just rant one last thing, ask you on this as a former fighter, because as a fan and someone in the media that knows that people in the media usually are on these committees, rankings. Where do you stand first off on fighter rankings in general?
In general, you kind of got to have them to give title contentions, but it's tough because it's just theoretical. It's just looking at a guy and being like, oh, what happens to these guys match up? As we've seen, we don't know what happens till they go and fight. So the only way to do is to have these guys fight and see what happens. But you kind of got to have rankings to that way top guys are beating each other to see who deserves the next shot. But it's very political, guys. Perfect example of Conor being in the top 5 when he has one win in the last or 2 wins in the last 5 years. Not that Conor's not a great fighter, but he probably doesn't deserve to be ranked in the top 5. And sure enough, he is because his name. So I don't love rankings, but it's something you have to have, especially look like the pound for pounds. That's completely, I'll still catch myself doing it, but it's completely ridiculous because we have no idea what's going to happen if a prime George St. Pierre fought a prime Jon Jones. There's just no possible way to make that happen. So it's all just theoretical, us making stuff up. It can be fun to do, but it's, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and when you bring up Conor, I'm not trying to shit on the guy either. He draws a fight, but yeah, his first win at 155, I think was now that second Diaz fight. You were in the corner. Was that at 155 or was that at 170?
I think it was 55s. I think they came down for that. The first one was in 70s. And then,
first one was at 70 for sure.
It might have been 70s again, actually, because I don't remember Nate cutting weight for that. And he has pretty big. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if we cut weight or not. No, Nate cuts weight a little different though than I do, so I'm not sure. remember cutting
No,
weight, but he kind of just creeps it off anyway. So maybe it was 55s.
no. You know what? I'm looking it up right here live because fuck it, we can do that. And Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz fought August 20th. Is that August 20th? Yeah, they fought at welterweight again. So that wasn't even 155. That was
Okay, yeah.
170.
Yeah, I didn't
So
remember Nate
you're
cutting weight.
looking.
I know
No,
it's a big weight
exactly.
cut
So
for him.
so now you're looking, he beat Eddie Alvarez November 12th, 2016, lost to Khabib, beat Donald Cerrone at welterweight, and lost to Poirier. This guy has won one time in the lightweight division, and it was 5 years ago, and he's in the top five. Tony Ferguson loses, and he moves up a spot into the top five after getting knocked out, not fighting versus Poirier. I don't know, man. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Rankings, like you said, you got to have them, but like, I find that, and it seems to just be the UFC. I find the rankings so far in Bellator have been pretty good from the new committee they put together. A few guys from MMA Junkie on there, actual people that cover the organization, unlike the UFC rankings. But that's a topic for a whole other day because a lot of boxing organizations actually make the UFC rankings and hardly cover mixed martial arts. So makes you wonder how you get on that board kind of thing. But like I said, I don't like to speculate.
Strange, but
hey, it never makes sense, but it always seems to make dollars and cents, right? So
exactly.
who knows, right?
A lot of it becomes financial gains, which obviously, I mean, you can't deny that Conor's the biggest financial draw. So it's like, as a fighter, that's who you want to fight.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's always been loud about that, but I mean, there's no denying that every fighter, I mean, you just saw it with what Poirier did, right? I mean, he could have obviously had the fight instead of Oliveira or Chandler for the title, but he's going to make that Conor McGregor money. Guys, I want to let you know to hit the subscribe button, click the little bell. We will be back next Wednesday. Jake, what do you got on the docket this week? Anything cool coming up or just training?
Yeah, nothing really this week. Kind of just mellow, hang out. Vegas is fully open. The club's 100% capacity, no mask. So probably go out a little bit. Haven't been out that much. Might be fun to go live a little. But other than that, no plans.
Yeah, man. Maybe there'll be some cage bunnies out there. You never know. The clubs are open. The masks are off. And we'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.